A very good morning to you and welcome to the deck of the Swamp Duck. It's Saturday the 21st of May 2022. Thank you to all of you who joined me early this morning for my premiere of my video, The Bygone Days, Our Heritage. It's always good to be able to chat to people as it's being shown. I mentioned in that video that my third great grandfather was born in this area. I've since discovered that my fourth great grandfather, Thomas Stevenson, was born at Kegworth, and he obviously worked in this area. He was an agricultural labourer, but then he was actually buried at Shardlow. That's something I need to investigate further. Today's video is going to be a little bit of who do you think you are, as I'm going to go and take a trip from here down to Kegworth and spend some time having a look around the town of Kegworth and see who I can dig up, not actually dig up, in the ancestral lineage. But first of all, I have to go down the River Trent, and in order to do that I have to go through the locks at the end of the Sowerby Cut. These are duplicated locks, they are automatic, and often they are manned by CRT personnel, so fingers crossed I won't have to operate them myself. And then when I get down the River Trent, I'm going to turn upstream up the River Soar to Kegworth. So come and join me. I'm starting my journey today at Sowerby Cut and the Aqua Vista Marina, one of 29 of their marinas dotted around the country. So this is the Sowerby Cut, and in front of me is the Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station. But before I can get to that, I have to go down the automatic locks. I'm just hoping that there's somebody on. It does make it easier, but we'll see. So there's a cruiser in the lock at the moment, so I've got to wait for them to come out before I go in. There are 3 lockies on there by the look of it. you. Thanks very much. So that's the lock done. I didn't have to do anything as normal. Didn't even have to use the key. It's really good when you've got people on. It does help, especially on some of these automatic locks, because they are a tad confusing sometimes. So we're now on the River Trent. There is a buoy coming up on my starboard side, which I have to keep on the starboard side. Quite shallow if you go over on the wrong side of it. So I just need to keep left of that. That's a freight line which goes down to Willington. Got some rowers coming up. There is a rowing club down at the bottom of the Trent here where it meets the store, so you often get groups of rowers. And they don't take too kindly to a great wake, so I will slow down. Lots of rowers coming up here now in canoes. So I'm going to go over and keep out of their way. But I'll just catch them on this camera when they go past. Enjoying themselves. Nice to see kids out enjoying themselves on the water. That's what it's all about. Now we have a group of very young kayakers. I think they're at the nursery stage because they haven't really left the bank very far at all. We'll just catch them on this camera as we go past. So this is a scout activity centre, the side of the Trent here. Just turn the camera a little bit. They've got the tents up, so they're obviously staying in the tents over the weekend. Great fun. Some permanent moorings there. Now we're just coming up to quite an iconic building, which is this rowing club building. this is Trent Lock as we come up, and there's also the entrance to the Erie Wash. So if I just turn the camera around, we'll have a look at that as well. The junction of the River Trent is where 4 possible routes meet. The Upper Trent we have come down, the River Soar on my starboard side, the Cranfleet Cut straight ahead, and the Erie Wash Canal on the port side. It is also the meeting place of 3 counties, Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. At this point the River Soar is a county boundary. So the railway line that you can see, that's the Midland Railway line that goes down to London St Pancras. So we're just about to turn onto the River Soar. You can feel the current coming against you now. So there's a real long line now of moored boats. This goes for a long way. Wow, that's nice. So is that. Come on, Mr. Lottery, give us a break. So we're now coming towards the Red Hill Flood Lock. Which at this time of the year, April to September, is chained open unless there are any serious problems on the River Trent, which they can be, then it would be closed. So we're leaving those behind so we can put a few revs on there. So I've got my windlass ready. The lock landing will be on the starboard side. Just see it coming into view now. And there's a boat there waiting to go through, I think so. These are double locks, so might be able to go through together. This will be my one and only lock of this trip. This is lock 58, Ratcliffe Lock, and 6 foot 8 inches deep.
Strangeness around me feels like I'm underwater. Strangeness around me feels like I'm underwater.
Sorry to scare you, I do have a bow thruster. Thank you for letting us jump in
Strangeness around me feels like I'm underwater.
So that's Ratcliffe Lock. 2 narrowboats and a cruiser. Plenty of room. Get another cruiser in at the side of me. Or a small narrowboat, fine. There's somebody actually going to go down in a minute, so they've come to help as well. So there's loads of people doing the locks. So in a minute we go under the A453. Nice small narrowboat here.
Feels like I'm underwater.
Yeah. So that's the A453. Goes to Nottingham. And then it goes the other way, it goes to the M1 motorway. Very busy road. That's the village of Ratcliffe on Sowerby. Gets rather swamped by those cooling towers. Might just get in on the mooring, not sure. Sort of 3 boats there. Might just pop on the end. Okay, so this is the mooring, just opposite Kegworth Marine on the River Soar. Some nice little chalets here, and there's the floodlock there, followed by the next bridge. I'm going to go up to that bridge and turn right and walk up to Kegworth village. So I'm thinking of my fourth great grandfather, Thomas Stevenson. I've done a little bit of research and I've found an address, London Road, Kegworth, and the specific address is the meeting yard, or the old meeting yard, and I've looked that up. There's a reference to a Quaker meeting house which was built in front of the old meeting yard, and for some reason Thomas Stevenson lived in that area and is registered as such in the 1841 census. I've got my Google map with me, and that can help me to find the place. About 200 yards away from the canal, I've come across the Anchor Inn. Do a Sunday roast, 12 till 5, various bits of food. That could come in handy later. So I'm coming up to the older part of Kegworth here. This is the Kegworth village. So there's a cottage there just near the church, dated 1575. This is the same cottage pictured in the 1950s. So I'm just having a quick look around the churchyard to see if a name pops up, Stevenson, which could or could not be related. Depends how old these stones are and whether they are legible. Often they're not, and they're often to people who can afford to have a headstone. But you never know, a name might just pop up. Very hard to read. So I've just come across a roll of honour in the porch of the church. This is 1914 to 1918, and the only person I can see of any relevance might be this one, J.G. Stevenson. So I might have to have a look at that. These are people who actually died. So this is Kegworth Marketplace. There's a few shops here, might be of use. Certainly a co-op, so that's not very far from the mooring. You can get your hair cut. And there's a bus stop there, which is a Skylink, which probably takes you to Loughborough, and probably to Derby as well. And just behind me here, there's a little property which I once came to look at with the idea of setting up a small cafe, and we decided that there wasn't enough footfall here to justify it. So how ironic would that have been to have set up in this place, considering the personal history that I really just didn't know about. So this is number 1 at London Road. Number 2 looks interesting. Wow, what a property. Gosh, that would make something, wouldn't it? This is what would have been the Friends meeting house with the old meeting yard at the back, which is described in the 1841 census. And you can see by the brickwork that this is a fairly old property. The bonding just gives it away. This property opposite is known to the locals as the Brit, the Britannia Hotel, long since gone. But at the back of the hotel there are supposed to be some preserved frame knitters' cottages. And one of my relatives who lived in 1841 opposite is described as a frame knitter in the 1841 census. And there we have some frame knitters' cottages with the telltale frame knitters' windows. They needed plenty of light to see what they were doing. Back in the 18th and 19th century, Kegworth was well known for its hosiery and even supplied people like Queen Victoria. This evidence is all fitting quite neatly into place, and it's so interesting to think that my fourth and third great grandfathers both lived in that property. So that was an interesting little excursion for me personally, just to see where some people came from way back in the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century. Oh look, I'm just coming out of this passageway and in front of me is the Anchor Inn. So I do think that in the interests of research on your behalf, I ought to just try it out and see whether it's one that I can recommend if you're ever coming this way on your boat and stopping off at this point in Kegworth.
I know before it's time. I know before it's time.
Well, I have to report that my first impressions of the Anchor was that it was very well kept. The locals were very friendly and they served a nice cool pint on a rather warm afternoon. But next time I'm passing, I can always call back to check.